Kelly, Lewis, and Rick, and now joined by Robert Schuerger, eater of a Cobra heart.
Did you know that just a few months ago, Robert Schuerger was camping in the frozen tundra of Alaska, lost all of his belongings, and had to fend off an entire pack of wolves with just a broken pair of scissors while wearing only a pair of cut-off sweatshorts? It was amazing.
I'm just glad to be here and be able to be with you this morning.
WarForYou.com.
He comes in here all dressed for success. And what is that awesome aroma that we are getting from you right now? Kelly, doesn't he smell good?
So I smell like it. I gave him a hug, and now I'm going to smell like you the whole rest of the day.
It's going to be awkward.
Don't tell your husband at home.
He'll be all right with it.
You're rubbing up against that Shuerger guy.
Yeah.
But he fended off a pack of wolves with broken scissors. I don't want to mess with that.
And the reason I was up in the Alaskan foothills was because I was trying to search for this aroma. And
All right, so we're so happy to have you back in because we have several things we need to ask you about. And one of them, let's start with the woman in Texas because that's such an interesting story. Her son had his water bottle taken at school by a bully, and the bully drinks from it, right? So Mom had an idea on how to fix this bully.
Yeah, she took her kid's water bottle and then put Gatorade in it, but then also put in vinegar, salt, and lemon to make it disgusting. The bully grabbed it and drank it at school and got a stomachache and a headache, had to go to the hospital. Now the mom was arrested and charged with causing bodily injury to a child.
He's fine.
I disagree with that. I would definitely defend her. She was obviously protecting her son. The stuff that she put into the water bottle was not poison. It was disgusting, but it was not anything that was intended to kill or harm. If anything, it was intended to stop the bullying from happening. And sometimes a parent has to take that into their own hands.
Teach him a lesson.
Exactly.
All right. I'm so glad you said that. I was like, because when we read this email, or when Kelly did this story, rather, the listeners were like, oh, I'm on Mom's side. I definitely side with the mom on this. And I'm like, who wouldn't side with the mom?
If it was your child, you would side with the mom.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't poison. Obviously disgusting items, but nothing that would preclude somebody from necessarily being sent to the hospital. We don't even know if that was an overreaction compared to it was just a bad stomach ache and it was a bad reaction to it.
Yeah, didn't they send him just as a precaution to the hospital?
Think so,
I thought that's what it was.
Well, it was all household items. It wasn't like she,
She didn't reach under the cupboard for the
Windex.
the
Well,
disinfectant.
one thing we know is that bully's not grabbing that water bottle anymore.
No.
I hope he learned.
Yep.
You would
Unless
think
he,
so.
unless he likes the vinegar.
Of course, now everybody knows he's a bully, too.
Yeah.
All right, so then we got an email from a listener. She'd been dating this guy for just a month, and he hits her with a dating contract. All right. It was a 2-year deal, which would expire at the end of the 2 years, and neither side would be bound by the agreement. And she said that she signed it because it caught her off guard. And maybe she looked at it like it was just this funny thing. So the deal said, obviously, they both promised not to cheat on each other. They both promised not to make big decisions or they promised to make big decisions as a couple, and promised to give each other positive affirmations every day and little gifts every month. And it also stated that if either side broke the contract, that they would have to pay the other person $2,000. Okay? And she wanted to know if she was crazy for signing it. Could he really enforce this against her?
We'd have to take a look at the fine print, but I would say no. That is a contract that shouldn't have ever been signed, shouldn't have been presented, and if I were the app, I would probably ask that gentleman be removed from it.
So can you not just draw up a personal contract with somebody like that?
You can, but the stipulation is going to be what are the outs within the contract. It'd be interesting to see what he put together. Technically, she did break the contract, again, subjective to what cheating means, subjective to how many positive affirmations did she give, did she intend to carry out the contract. those are the technical items of a legal argument. But if we were to take this to a jury trial, we would cut that thing apart. So she would not have to pay.
Would that be embarrassing to defend? You owe me $2,000 because you failed last week to tell me how nice I looked, and the contract stipulates that 5 out of 7 days I must be told how nice I look.
I'm wondering also, one of the questions I would ask this gentleman is, how many people have you had sign this contract? How many people have you shook down who've broken this contract?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Over a period of time.
That's a great question.
And the question, technically is, if you have a bunch of women sign this contract at the same time or in successive dates, what constitutes the word cheating?
This is why you want Robert Schuerger as your attorney.
We do have an important question to get to. Clearly, Robert musked up this morning because, Rick and Kelly both pointed that out.
There's not much ventilation in here, so, even if one squirt's amplified by 5.
That's
right?
this is the best this studio has ever smelled.
It is. Matt wants to know, when you musked up, did you go with Sex Panther? It is made from bits of real panther, and 60% of the time it works all the time.
I only go to where I could find the natural ingredients and some of the hardest parts to find in the world. So if Sex Panther has some of those, I'll definitely like to try it. How many pheromones does Sex Panther have? Is that part of the...
It's in the name.
Yeah.
A lot.
I prefer English gentlemen, but again, I'm not at Sex Panther level yet. So
when we read this email on the air, we had a couple listeners text in and said she should just start acting like just an absolutely crazy maniac and get him to break up the
off the relationship. That's a good strategy. Yeah,
collect the money herself.
Get him to fire her.
Right. All right, let's talk about this mess with TikTok.
Before we get to the TikTok thing, we got a question from Jay. A buddy of mine's having problems with his wife's ex. They drove an hour to Columbus to harass and try to fight them. My buddy and them called the cops. The cop that came out wasn't the best. He called my buddy's wife work and told her that he was investigating something involving her and they should fire her or lay her off. Nothing's been proven. It isn't even my people's fault. It's the people that drove an hour to try to attack them. And is he allowed to do that? Or are they allowed to blame? I guess he's asking if shouldn't they be targeting the other people instead of...
Well, they're allowed to make calls based on an investigation, but if the police officer is telling the employer to fire the employee as they're making the inquiry, that's a major problem.
Okay. All right. This whole deal with TikTok, which is run by this Chinese company called ByteDance, and, according to the powers that be, China's spying on us and using our information and all this that they're getting through TikTok. So we want ByteDance to give it up to an American company, and it's already passed the House, and now it's up to the Senate. And then I know that President Biden did say if it makes it to his desk, he'll sign it. So we're waiting now on the Senate to vote on this. One of the things that the TikTokers are saying is that taking this away from them will violate their First Amendment right. And my question to that was, I've had the First Amendment my entire life. I've had freedom of speech my entire life. I've never had TikTok. So this is just a social media place. You still have your First Amendment right with or without TikTok.
Correct. Technically taking it away wouldn't be a violation, but doing it would be a bridge to continue to mute free speech.
Okay.
It's more the example of taking the TikTok platform away. That's a violation of free speech than actually the TikTok platform itself. It's interesting. The TikTok debate has been going on ever since President Trump in 2020 voted to or attempted to revoke TikTok. Obviously, President Trump now is supporting TikTok and keeping that platform. Anytime that when you look at the United States Congress, Senate, and President, and of any party, but anytime you have a big bipartisan push for something, you usually have to look very closely at it, because is it power supporting power? The last time we had this type of rush, you had two things that were passed, the Patriot Act and the second move to the Iraq War. Basically, they were rushed through. The scrutiny on it wasn't heavy. People demanded evidence in that second Iraq war for weapons of mass destruction. We were told it was there, it was there, it was there. Obviously, it wasn't. We know where we are now today in the geopolitical world. When you look at the TikTok debate, something is, I think, similar to that. there has been consistent requests for evidence of the Chinese spying on or utilizing this data in a nefarious way against U.S. citizens. I mean, if the Chinese government wants to know who likes to pet cats versus who likes to pet dogs on TikTok, that information I don't think is of national security interest. We know that data protections are violated consistently, whether it's a TikTok platform, Meta's platform, Google's platform. Right. I mean, the whole data infrastructure needs to be taken a look at if you're going to go after one platform or the other. 170 million TikTok users right now. If you take a look at this, I think it's a slippery slope. One of the pieces of language in this legislation says that if a person is under the influence of a foreign adversary, therefore that company could be eliminated as well. Well, technically, if under that subjective language, which you can drive a semi-truck through, Elon Musk would be somebody who would be a target because he has a major plant in Shanghai in China.
Wow.
Government could argue that, hey, Elon Musk is under the duress of a foreign adversary because he has such a financial commitment in China. Therefore, we're going to have to take a look at X and to have to take a look at his divestiture in X. So there are some things that need to be really thoroughly debated on this and not a rush in an election year. To judgment. It's very easy to get xenophobic when it comes to an election year and rail against China. But this is something bigger than that because the TikTok platform and the TikTok influencers, the economy around the TikTok, the small businesses that it affects, the livelihood that affects around the country, I think is something that needs to be protected and needs to be further debated in the Senate before anything is passed half-heartedly.
Oh, my gosh. So this bill is not just about TikTok then?
No. That's the thing. When you piece back the bill, hence why I think the Senate is really trying to slow this down to take a look at it.
All right.
The language in there is very broad and creates, the national security infrastructure of this country even more abilities to be able to attack other entities under a pretense of the subjective language that's in there.
I would love to know which of our Congress people own stock in Meta. That would be important to me before I want you voting on a bill to get rid of another social media platform that doesn't bump up your stock price.
That's a great point, Kelly, because all those companies have spent tens of millions of dollars in lobbying too on Capitol Hill, and those would be the main beneficiaries of TikTok being knocked out.
That's what Trump said. He said if you get rid of TikTok, Facebook's just going to blow up even more.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Or Instagram.
And they say, well, TikTok can just divest. Well, the algorithm and the secret sauce of what makes TikTok tick, no pun intended, is what's the value of the company. Without that algorithm, it's just a shell. Now, TikTok and ByteDance have offered Project Texas to move all the data, all the servers to be hosted in Texas via Oracle at their headquarters there. So they are trying to make overtures in order to pacify the interests of our federal government. We'll see if it's enough. My guess tells me that the Senate's going to take a really close look at this before they make any moves. It's interesting because from a freedom of speech perspective, from a perspective of not allowing the government to encroach on our rights, this bill, we cannot allow this bill to be a Trojan horse that will then allow a mission creep into other areas of our lives.
Which is what they call TikTok. They call TikTok a Trojan horse.
Well, but the one thing that you have with social media that becomes scary is there are people that believe everything that's posted. No matter how outlandish that might be, you'll find somebody out there that's like-minded that, well, I saw it on TikTok or I saw it on Facebook, so it must be true. Just like everybody used to, right. It used to be, oh, if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Right. Yeah. Or if it's in the newspaper, it must be true.
Nobody's going to put out false information.
There's no misinformation on TikTok or anywhere else on the internet.
Well, that's why the issue is such a broad one, because it's an overall problem that affects all the platforms. It can't be just we can't just target one and not the others, because if you look at the other companies, the same thing is going on.
Right.
The same type of reels, whether it be Instagram reels, whether it be YouTube shorts, TikTok, Pinterest. If you take a look at all the platforms, they all have basically have similar setups to a certain degree, and they all don't monitor the information that comes out of it. So as long as it's entertaining, you can pump it out. But again, it because of the advent of social media, the advent of the internet, freedom of speech controls becomes a whole different debate. Data mining becomes a whole different debate, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of our lives because the internet's not going away. Social media platforms are not going away. If anything, they're just going to continue to grow. People are going to continue to live on their phones, and the reliance on those platforms is going to become more and more important.
And now we're going to get AI with all of that.
Yeah.
You gotta
Throw that in.
Stop building Skynet one platform at a time. My God.
Robert, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
No. Thank you guys,
Man.
everybody. Kelly, thank you.
That was a great education. A lot of stuff that I know a lot of people probably hadn't thought about when it came to this bill. So
No,
there was a lot of things there I didn't know.
No, absolutely. Anytime.